nothing. Open up the door. I'll get it myself.
It's the Godfather of Soul, James Brown, on Tavis, Smiley. Glad to have you with us in this third and final hour of our program today. In this conversation, two conversations on the backside of this hour, I should say, in advance of National DNA Day tomorrow, Friday. A conversation with the co-founder and president of African Ancestry, Dr. Gina Page. We'll talk to Gina Page again on the B side of this hour. But we commenced this hour in dialogue with Indiana University Professor Ben Robinson on being one of those college professors in the Trump era investigated for the appearance of political bias, a violation of intellectual diversity. Glad to have him on to explain this to us in his own words. As you well know, I'm a proud graduate of Indiana University, so Ben Robinson, you are welcome on this program anytime. How are you, sir?
I'm terrific. Thank you so much for having me on. And I teach your book or parts of your book in my Marx to MLK class. So it really is an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. The Death of a King book, the MLK book.
Death of a King book, absolutely, on the late king. Such an important period, and it actually inspires a lot of my practice. That maybe we'll talk about what that means in the Trump era of the Trump University.
No, I appreciate that. I just got goosebumps. Imagine that. I didn't know that was going to happen today. I'm talking to a professor. At my alma mater, and he's using my book in his class at the school that hey, only look at God. See how that works? It's a full circle moment. I could never have imagined that. So I got a smile on my face, and you made my day, Professor Robinson. I did not know that, but I'm pleased to hear it. I will say this: I've written 23, 24 books. And it is my favorite book. That story of King's last year, as you know, I did that because I regard, this audience knows this, I say it all the time, I regard King as the greatest American this country's ever produced. That's my assessment. He is the greatest American we've produced. And for me, you really can't appreciate King if all you know of him is I Have a Dream in 63. It really is that last year when everything and everybody, the cosmos really turns and shifts against him, that you see who King really is. And for me, I was pleased upon the research to accept and to know that King was as advertised. I've said many times he was a public servant, a prophet, frankly, a public servant, not a perfect servant. But the last year of his life, when everything turns against him, we see who he really is. And it was encouraging for me researching to write that book literally just about the last year. It starts April 4, 1967, when he gives the speech at the Riverside Church in Manhattan, the Beyond Vietnam speech. That speech puts a target on his back, April 4, 67, and my book literally follows him 1 year to the day later, April 4, 68, when they assassinate him. But my read is that you can't really appreciate King if you don't understand all he endured and how who he really was shows up in the last year. But tell me more very quickly. I'm just curious how you're using it in the class, though.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, it is especially last year, and you're right. Both those things are the focus. The Beyond Vietnam speech. I mean, Vietnam was the moral issue of the age. So the Jim Crow, obviously, the civil rights movement, Beyond Vietnam. But the other piece of it that I really highlight is the Memphis sanitation workers strike. So, the course tries to draw a big arc leading up to King. I actually tell my class, in terms of what you were talking about as a prophet, is really, the greatest American in some ways. There's one point we talk about the content, but I also say, look at this, as a human being, this is better than Shakespeare. Here's someone with the force of character to stand out, as you point out in the book, against his own lieutenants, the Johnson administration, and to just be out there both on labor and the Vietnam War, and, of course, he gave his life in Memphis. So, that part of the arc, too, is so key. But, right, the Beyond Vietnam speech unleashed such a backlash, and his steadfastness, as, among other things, a public intellectual and a true leader, his steadfastness in that moment really is something I think all of us in this Trump era of attacks on higher education, really on academic freedom and free speech as a whole, really that is our example. We've got to look to King in this moment more than ever, I would say. So, so the book, that part of his life plays a really powerful role in the course.
When we come forward, I understand that I'm sure that you're hearing the same thing I'm hearing. That's his phone is a little muffled. We're going to get that figured out right quick here because I want to get to the good part of this conversation, although I'm pleased to know that, again, that one of my texts is being used at my alma mater. But I want to get definitions when we come forward of these terms that are going to be important for the rest of this conversation. Political bias, what is that? And intellectual diversity, what is that? And why is Ben Robinson, as a professor at Indiana University, being investigated for the appearance of political bias? We'll get to all that when we come forward with Professor Ben Robinson on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
Wow, you look amazing. What have you been doing?
I'm sure you've heard of Ozempic, Wegovy, and the other GLP-1 medications, right? Well, I found this great company called Zelty. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe medications like Ozempic and Wegovy and other GLP-1 medications that are 80 to 90% less expensive, all 100% online.
I can get GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% less and do it all online? No doctor's office or pharmacy?
Yes, Zelty can provide semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s, but for 80 to 90% less and shipped directly to your door.
How do I get started with Zelty?
Just send them a text.
Text SKINNY to 323232 to get started today with Zelty. Get the same active ingredients in Wegovy or Ozempic, but for 80 to 90% less and 100% online. Don't wait. Text SKINNY to 323232 right now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text SKINNY to 323232. That's SKINNY to 323232. SKINNY to 323232.
Barbecue season is back. Hey, it's Ellen.
And this is Sarah Beth.
And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Smokehouse Barbecue Bacon Sandwich is that zesty barbecue sauce. I love that it was a little sweet, a little tangy, and with the mac and cheese,
I feel like I tasted the brown sugar bacon first. It was the absolute best combination. Pro tip, 3 sandwiches are always better than 1.
Order the Smokehouse Barbecue Bacon Sandwich and our Coca-Cola on the Chick-fil-A app for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it! Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. Know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Indiana University Professor Ben Robinson talking about being under investigation for the appearance of political bias in violation of what they call intellectual diversity. Delighted to have him on this program. Ben Robinson, let me jump right in and make the most of these 15 minutes I have here. Again, I want to start with these terms and get some definitions from you. What is political bias on college campuses these days, and what is intellectual diversity?
Well, let me take it the other way around and start with intellectual diversity, because it's sort of a made-up term, and it was made up, probably by conservative think tanks, but it worked its way into legislation in states like Florida, Indiana. Our legislation really has become a model. I know Ohio is passing a similar piece of legislation. But basically, what intellectual diversity has done is it's gone through and replaced the word diversity. So you have to think of it in that context, really, as an attack on the idea of diversity, understood as affirmative action, as an attempt to make our institutions reflect the people of the country. And so when you say intellectual diversity, the implication is what you have to represent is the viewpoints that conservatives feel have been marginalized. So conservative viewpoints. So basically, I don't believe it is an ideologically neutral term at all. I believe it's an ideological term to represent conservative viewpoints in the academy. So you just have to see that as a response, as a replacement for the word diversity, which really represented, the best of our affirmative action traditions to try and get our institutions to represent their people. Political bias, now that comes in, in that context, it's clear what that means. It's anything that doesn't fit that picture. So the very problem of the legislation, and this is a matter of First Amendment lawsuits, our ACLU in Indiana has a lawsuit, but that it's so broad that no professor, no instructor can know what that means, what counts as political bias. And because it's such a broad term, the legislature, or in the case of our university, the administration can use it basically to attack anyone they don't like, because it has no compact definition whatsoever. So I think that's the key of the problem.
Yep. Before I get to the issue for which you are under investigation, what's your read of my alma mater? I'm looking at all these other colleges and universities, many of them bending the knee. How is IU responding in this era of Trump? I recognize Indiana's a red state, and Indiana's IU is smack dab in the middle of that red state in Bloomington, of course. But how is IU showing up or not in this moment?
Well, let me first talk about the people of IU, because that's what I know you care about.
Sure.
You were a student here, the faculty, the students. We just had a big event on April 17th called the People's Platform, People's 2030. And that was a broad coalition of stakeholders. So whether we're talking about students, whether we're talking about staff, whether we're talking about faculty, that segment of IU is really standing up, and it's amazing to see. So there I have good news to report.
Okay.
The administration, though, at the top, they're good actors, they're good departments, there are people trying hard throughout the institution as well.
Sure.
But at the top, the administration is failing us, and I think my case is an example of that, sort of a stark. Over and over again, starting last year, so one element of political bias, we can get in this, is the weaponization, the false weaponization of anti-Semitism. And so the attacks on people speaking for human rights in Palestine, speaking out against the genocide. And that, already last year, the administration was responsible for targeted attacks. And in my case, they had a choice. Are they going to side with academic freedom and their faculty and the right of their students to learn freely, or are they going to side with the witch hunts? And the administration, again, I'm talking about the upper administration, they made a clear decision to side with the witch hunters. So on that level, I unfortunately don't have good news to report about alma mater. We need stronger leadership, true to IU's mission. But there are a lot of folks here, I don't want to give the wrong impression.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Folks here who love the institution and want to defend that mission and are stepping up.
Speaking of witch hunts, I mentioned in our first hour today that I was going to talk to you about this, and I will after I get to your case and your story. But for those who are listening, were listening in the first hour, they have been waiting for this hour to hear you opine on this story that I, again, shared in hour one about Barnard College and the professors there this week receiving text messages from the EEOC asking them to fill out a voluntary survey. Their personal data was provided to the Trump administration, apparently by Barnard. And these professors receive text messages asking them to please select all that apply on this voluntary survey. And the choices were, I am Jewish, I am Israeli, I have shared Jewish Israeli ancestry. I practice Judaism and other. And I said in hour 1, and I maintain now in hour 3, that the federal government are reaching out to personal cell phones of professors, asking them to identify who is Jewish is not just sinister, but a great deal more than sinister. I'll let you unpack that when we get to it. But that story is something I want you to comment on as we continue our dialogue over the next 10 or 12 minutes here. So that said, tell me more about your case. I wanted you on, and I said to the audience that we were going to talk about you being under investigation at IU for political bias in violation of intellectual diversity. You define those terms for me, so take a couple minutes right quick and tell me about your case.
Well, my case, there's part which probably bore your listeners, so I won't go into too much detail about it. It's about the standing of the case. Did they have a right to bring it anyway? Because it was an anonymous complaint on a form that alleged no harms or no policy violations, and then the administration took this complaint and they elevated it to a policy violation, this political bias in the classroom violation, and that violation has implications for termination, and so they elevated it to something serious. So at that level, that's maybe the more boring technical level. It was just absurd that the way they weaponized the complaint. But the actual complaint had to do, it mentioned a couple things that I said the administration wasn't friendly to free speech on campus. So ironically, it's funny to see where that turned. It was alleged that I had mentioned participating in civil disobedience, so having been arrested on campus as well as at an Israeli consulate as a member of Jewish Voice for Peace. I am, in fact, a Jewish Hoosier, so, that I think that's important in understanding where all the places that people come from in this. And then the third thing that was alleged is that I told lies about Israel. And, so the nature of the complaint and the investigation of those allegations, and they're so broad, it's hard to know what to do or what to say, because basically that is my job. Yeah. My job is the course, I actually am a professor of German studies, but the course was on the philosophical tradition of freedom and public use of reason. And if speaking truth to power isn't freedom and public use of reason, I don't know what is. Yeah. So you're sort of dumbfounded in figuring out, what do I even respond to that? Of course I talked about matters of urgent concern, and really the task is to help students understand what academic freedom means, both on the side of the professor, but also on the side of the learner. You gotta deal with some discomfort. You have to understand that civil discourse is robust. But that's not how the university took it, right? Yeah. They took it as a chance to weaponize.
No, I hear your point. It's one thing, I'm thinking about the irony here. It's irony to me. I'm not sure what it is to you, but I do want to hear in a moment when I shut up what it is to you. It's irony to me that you go after, I say you, the Trump administration has gone after these pro-Palestinian protesters. That's one thing, and that's a bridge too far for me. But the fact that you're Jewish is really the ultimate irony. How do you read that?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's interesting. Again, in my case, the initially alleged it's called bias incident reporting, and that is meant to just create a record and to help the students, and it has no implication for investigation. But it goes to our Office of Civil Rights Compliance, and they kicked it out because, what are they going to say? That a Jew is biased against Jew?
Yeah.
Right? There's just the irony and the absurdity of it. So they kicked it up to, violation of political neutrality or however they're characterizing it. So they kicked it out there. But, as you just mentioned, right, I know you're going to bring it up later, but the situation at Barnard and also...
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned it's the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So this is, these are institutions, also the office at my school, the Office of Civil Rights Compliance. These are institutions which emerged, like that word diversity that we were talking about, to, rectify historic wrongs
That's
in the
right.
country and
That's
to support
right.
civil rights and to, and that they're being weaponized in this way. It not only hurts academic freedom, it not only hurts faculty members like me and their students who have the right to learn freely, but really it damages the very institutions we've developed for civil rights. So it's a piece of the attack on what's called DEI, and I like just to call affirmative action or rectifying historic wrongs. So that irony that you're talking about, we feel it acutely here because it's, everything has become its opposite. Diversity has now become intellectual diversity. Civil rights compliance has now become, a means to witch hunt. The EEOC, a tool for getting faculty to snitch on each other.
Yeah.
And so there is that sort of chilling, I guess it's a classic example of the Orwellian doublespeak where everything, it has its opposite valence.
Yeah, it's one thing for institutions to bend the knee, and there have been far too many that have done that, from colleges and universities to law firms, too many, and media outlets for that matter. Too many institutions bending the knee. But I wonder to what extent, when universities move on professors like you, this has a chilling effect on academicians, individuals, not institutions.
Yeah, that's a really great question because I was president, I no longer am, but for 4 years, president of our AAUP, the American Association of University Professors, which is sort of like the closest thing we have to a labor union in higher education.
Sure.
In many places, it is a labor union. And sometimes we distinguish between academic freedom as being the freedom of the institution. So, the Trump administration with all its executive orders and its these are attacks on the academic freedom of the institution. They're telling the institution, you have to be ideological in this way as a whole. But your point that you're bringing up is there's also the academic freedom of the individual stakeholders of the institution. And so when you do something like this, there's my case, where I'm being told I can't act in a certain way, but then there's the chilling effect it has on everyone. And I see that so concretely. Just to give one example, we had a wonderful undergraduate platform here that was running for IUSG, that's IU student government.
Sure.
So it's such an important part of undergraduate education that students learn civic responsibility, they learn to take public stands, they learn what it means to self-govern. Well, this platform reached out to faculty members, including me and many others, to have an opportunity to speak in our classrooms to their constituencies. I mean, it's just so basic for democracy. You have to reach a constituency. And faculty members were rightfully scared that it would be a violation of this political bias and institutional diversity law. And so they denied the students the platform that they really needed. And so the effects of investigations like this, the effects on the individual stakeholders, not on the institutions as a whole, are really horrible. We're seeing the fear, we're seeing the chilling effect, and that impoverishes the experience for everyone. But, one last thing to make it emphatic is I truly do see in this country, we know labor union density is down. We know that parties struggle to really represent their bases. The university is one of the few places left in our society where you can have, or you could have had, robust freedom of speech, robust exchange of ideas. And this chilling of that discourse is it's hitting one of the main well springs of democracy in our country. So, it hits individuals, the people who run the universities and learn at them, but it also then hits this wellspring and affects society as a whole. And that's not an accident, right? Yeah. They see it strategically, and they're going after the university.
Oh no, they are being intentional. Strategic is your word. It's a great word. They're being strategic. They're being intentional, and you're absolutely right about that. I got 60 seconds left. A tight 60. I'll give it all to you. So tell me where your case is at this moment, Professor Robinson.
Well, it's in what's called preliminary investigation. So they're going to make a finding whether the complaint has merit, and if they find it does have merit, then I do have an appeal process. If they find it is without merit, the issue still remains, the chilling effect. So I will continue to fight that it really should have come to a case at all, that we should be in the business of investigating what professors decide to do with their curriculum and their classroom. We should be in the business of monitoring viewpoints. So I'll continue to fight that. But, whether whether it's found to have merit or not, that still remains to be seen. So we've got a little time on that. Until then, I just gotta, I just gotta get my allies together and make the arguments and hope for some good decisions by people in the administration.
I close this program every day, as I've done for years, 30 plus years of my career. Every program I've ever had, no matter where I was, my sign-off line has always been the same: keep the faith. So I will tell you right now, before I get to the close of this show, to keep the faith. As I said earlier on today's program, when we fight, we win. So I hope you will continue to fight this. And I'm going to ask my producers to stay in touch with you because this, again, has a chilling effect on academicians all across the country when professors are accused of political bias in the classroom and being accused of violating intellectual diversity. So I want to stay on top of this case, and as appropriate, we'll have Professor Robinson back on this program, if he will, to see how this case unfolds. But for now, Ben Robinson, thank you for your time, sir. An honor to have talked to you.
Oh, yeah. An honor to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Alexandria Ikamoni with 4 things you should know from BIN News. President Trump is cracking down on DEI in American education with 2 new executive orders. Trump took several executive actions regarding education, including 2 targeting efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the classroom, saying U.S. education is finally getting out of the business of DEI. 12 states are taking the Trump administration to court over tariffs. New York Attorney General Letitia James, a black woman, said Trump, quote, does not have the power to raise taxes on a whim, but that's exactly what President Trump has been doing with these tariffs, end quote. Jay-Z's anonymous rape accuser wants the rapper's defamation lawsuit against her dismissed. The woman originally claimed that Jay-Z and Diddy raped her when she was 13 before she dropped her lawsuit after several discrepancies were found in her story. Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts is now a married man. According to Men's Health magazine, Hurts tied a knot with his longtime girlfriend Brianna Burrows. Both are black. Get BIN News on demand at BINnews.com.
Why do we grill to order at Waba Grill? Because it's just better for you. Our Asian-inspired menu has high-quality proteins that are healthier for you. Download the Waba Rewards app or order online at wabagrill.com. Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The best first-round series in the NBA playoffs resumes tonight at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Clippers and Denver in Game 3. The series is tied at 1-1. Game 1 was decided by 3 points in overtime. Game 2 resulted in a 2-point win for the Clippers. 7 p.m. tip-off tonight. The 3-day NFL draft jumps off tonight in Green Bay. The Chargers have the number 22 pick in the first round. The Rams' first-round pick is at number 26. It could be a milestone night for HBCU college football. Alabama A&M offensive tackle Carson Vinson is a potential first-round pick. The 6'7", 314-pound native of Morrisville, North Carolina, impressed NFL scouts at the Senior Bowl and Scouting Combine. Vinson would be the first HBCU player chosen in the first round since 2008. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, a defensive back from Tennessee State, was selected at number 16 by the Arizona Cardinals. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
You ready? An all-new Dave & Buster's is here with all-new games just in time for spring break. Fly high in Top Gun Maverick, or step into the UFC Challenge and battle Godzilla in VR, or put yourself inside the new human crane and become the Claw to grab epic prizes. Only at Dave & Buster's.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
You really about to do it? 40 acres in the mule. This is bigger than the music. You really about to do it? Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence.
Who among us doesn't like black music? But Kendrick is right. This moment is so much bigger than music. These are serious times. We've got serious problems, and we need serious people who understand that slogans are not solutions. When you want substantial and sober analysis about things that matter to you and the ones you love, this is where you turn. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black. Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed. We thank the good professor for coming on this program, Ben Robinson. Now, a conversation with Dr. Gina Page. Friday is National DNA Day. Dr. Page, good to have you on. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. What does National DNA mean? What's it all about?
Well, it really is just a day that commemorates all of the advances that have been made around DNA sequencing and the role that scientists now can play in using DNA to help improve our health outcomes.
So tell me more about those advances that have been made that you just referenced.
Well, one of the advances that has happened over time has been the sequencing, or what I'll say, the decoding of our DNA so that we can answer different questions about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And AfricanAncestry.com is a direct beneficiary of that. Because of these advances, we're now able to reconnect Black folks across the African diaspora with our roots, specifically in African countries and ethnic groups.
Mm-hmm. You see this data every day, I assume. How big has this become? Put another way, what's your data telling you about Black people who are interested in finding answers to these kinds of questions?
Well, one of the things it's telling us is exactly that there is a growing desire among Black people to know where we come from in Africa. And we see that with the growth of our company as well as the growth of other companies. And another thing that we see, Travis, is that obviously we come from West Africa as Black people, whose ancestors were part of the transatlantic slave trade. But we're seeing direct lineages in groups in Nigeria, for example, like the Igbo and the Fulani and the Hausa, in Cameroon among the Tikar and Bamileke, in Guinea-Bissau among the Balanta and the Jola. So people are able to make some to learn the specifics of the cultures that they come from, and then use that information to inform how they live, love, and celebrate here in the United States.
Yep.
Their identities.
Yep. Tell me more about the growth specifically of your company, AfricanAncestry.com. Tell me more about that, and just talk more broadly about the growth of this industry writ large.
Mm-hmm. So, pioneered the industry for Black people back in 2003. So we've grown over the past 22 years, with the most significant growth coming after during 2018 and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
So with the release of the movie Black Panther and Chadwick Boseman having taken our test and telling the world that he took our test, that really, those two phenomena, the movie and then his endorsement, if you will,
mm-hmm.
of the technology really helped us to take off. And then we our growth increased during the pandemic. Unfortunately, with the assassination of George Floyd and others, that triggered us as a community to focus on who we are, our identities, and what's important to us and our culture. And so we saw that people then were using their Black dollars to support our business and others. Now we're seeing a similar type of resurgence as people are grappling with the assault on Black history and Black identity, but we're in a different time financially or economically, and so that's kind of where we see ourselves today.
Yep.
But we've our business tripled in 2018 and then has continued to grow from there.
Yep. So the Chadwick piece I totally get. Chadwick Boseman had a huge platform. Black Panther was a massive success. So Chadwick takes your test and sort of, to your point, sort of endorses the process and the procedure. So I can see how that would have an impact on your bottom line. The Chadwick thing I get. Help me understand better the George Floyd thing. What's driving people coming to African Ancestry as it relates to the George Floyd murder? What am I missing here?
Well, I think that the murder changed our consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
or that period of time triggered our consciousness to start to think about who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And as Black people, and the value of Black lives, and what does it mean for my Black life? And so I think the collective consciousness around the importance of being Black and being proud and being forward about that is what impacted us. Plus, everybody was at home, everyone was online, working remotely, and using the internet, and that I think also helped to a lot, not all, but many Black-owned e-commerce businesses. If you remember, there was also a Buy Black push during that time, those early days of the pandemic. And so when you ask me about the industry, we're the only Black-owned company in the industry. We're the only company in the industry that provides people of African descent with specific information about who they are on the continent. And we're the only company that doesn't sell or share our customers' DNA. And so those things helped us to stand apart at a time when people were thinking about who they are and where they come from.
We talked about Chadwick Boseman and that big moment for AfricanAncestry.com. We talked about the murder of George Floyd and that moment for AfricanAncestry.com. What's the data telling you about Black people and AfricanAncestry.com in the era of Donald Trump?
Yeah, so, it's kind of early, but the tea leaves are telling me that it's a tough time. People are, when I say it's a tough time, there's two sides to the coin, right? The one side is with this with him trying to convince the world that we don't matter, that Black people don't matter, that Black history doesn't matter, that Black institutions don't matter, that the messaging that Black people stand on is not significant, there's that same sort of reaction. No, we do matter. We do have a history, and people want to explore more fully what that history is. And so they come to African ancestry. But the flip side of that is people are losing their jobs. There's a lot of economic uncertainty, the threat of inflation, the impact psychologically and economically on the impending tariffs, all impacts everyone's buying behavior. So we are on the, we are also impacted by that.
Yeah. When we come forward in this conversation with Dr. Gina Page, the co-founder and president of AfricanAncestry.com, I want to ask her, and I know this answer points us in a direction that is perhaps a bit too scientific, and I know that some of this data is proprietary. But that said, I do want her as best she can in layman's terms to give us a sense for those who've never done their testing. How genetic ancestry tracing actually works. Again, I know there's some scientific response to that question. There's some proprietary data that she's not going to give us, and I ain't mad at her. But how does genetic ancestry tracing actually work writ large? We'll let her unpack that for us when we come forward. And you heard her talking a moment ago about the fact that they don't share data. And I think of Henrietta Lacks all the time for a variety of reasons. We all know the Henrietta Lacks story, and so I love the fact that AfricanAncestry.com does not share people's genetic information. We'll talk about why they decided to go that direction and others are doing something completely and totally different. Our guest is Dr. Gina Page as we celebrate National DNA Day. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. Think about your mentors and idols, the people who inspire you the most. While it may look like they have all the answers, they don't. But they do know when to ask questions and seek the support they need. In a world that glorifies hyper-independence, it's easy to forget that we're all better with a support system. Therapy is a great way to find a consistent source of support in your life, so you can break free from the outdated belief that seeking help is a sign of weakness. BetterHelp has experienced therapists ready to help you with challenges ranging from anxiety and depression to relationships and stress. It's convenient, too. You can join a session with the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. You can even send your therapist a message anytime something comes up. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/ABCRadio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ABCRadio.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
If you missed our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall, the Altadena Eden Fire, 100 Days and Counting, you missed an evening of reverence, reflection, and reality.
You gotta live in the reality because this is it. Every day, you wake up, is this my life? Don't stay in denial because yes it is. Don't stay in bargaining where you're praying for a miracle and if it wouldn't have happened, then this is what I would have done. It did.
Our panel participants kept it real. really real.
I think, number one, it's amazing to me how we ignore systemic racism in our community, and as a people, we've apologized for so much, but when will we stop apologizing for what we have paid for? Because the truth of the matter is we paid for this.
You can always count on KBLA Talk 1580 to give it to you straight, no chaser. When you love folk, you tell them the truth. Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
He's a paradigm pioneer.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Gina Page, who is the co-founder and president of African Ancestry. So I want to get to how genetic ancestry tracing actually works. I asked that question first, but I want to hold that for a moment because I was just talking to my producer, Miles, my board out, Miles, a moment ago, about the fact that just last month, 23andMe filed bankruptcy. We talked earlier with Dr. Page about the explosive growth of this space. So 23andMe filed bankruptcy last month. I was just reading about this right quick during that break. They are still going through that process, and they're looking for a buyer for the data. They filed bankruptcy looking for a buyer for the data. So you're telling me that a company goes bankrupt and all your genetic information, all your data can be sold to somebody else? What do you make of that story, Dr. Page?
It's horrifying. And, you know, people opted in or did not opt out of giving 23andMe their data. They didn't ask any questions. They gave it to them, and they had carte blanche to use it how they saw fit. And so now those potential buyers can be credit agencies, insurance companies, anybody, any organization that may not use it for our best interest, right? Yeah. And that fear is exactly why, one of the reasons why we have never sold or shared our customers' DNA and have gone the extra step to destroy it. So we have no data to sell. Yeah. We have no DNA to sell. And your DNA is extremely valuable. That's why that company had the crazy valuation that it had, you know, and the cash reserve that it had because of the monetary value of the DNA. And we chose not to go that route, but to, again, make sure that we destroy it, not sell or share it, because we want people to have this information. Yeah. Tavis, it's our birthright to know where we're from in Africa. And we don't want fear to be the reason that you don't find out.
Yep. I love the fact, again, I think it speaks to the integrity of AfricanAncestry.com that it never has shared information, never will. And you heard Dr. Page say they have information to sell because they destroy it. But as a business person, as an entrepreneur, that you see where I'm going, right? That does lessen your value. You ain't valued like 23andMe. That's a serious decision you made.
Who are you telling?
Yeah,
absolutely. I think about that decision every
I'm sure you do.
Yeah,
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
But you know, these are the things that we unfortunately have to do to be able to give our people what we want often, right? Because when we started in 2003, if we had said, give us your DNA and we'll tell you where you're from in Africa. And oh yeah, by the way, we can do whatever we want with your DNA. Nobody was gonna buy this. Yeah. And though the Black people who have used 23andMe gave them permission to do whatever they wanted to with their DNA, people ask us all the time, even before this, you know, this bankruptcy, what are you going to do with my DNA? I'm not giving you my DNA. So, you know, we have a very different view of how our DNA should be handled, and it's even exacerbated when the researchers are Black. Yeah. Unfortunately.
No, I hear you. All right. In our remaining moments with Dr. Page, we get to that question of how genetic ancestry tracing actually works, to the extent she can define that without giving away any proprietary secrets. You're listening to Dr. Gina Page, and I'm glad about it on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Some people just know they can save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com. Like you know to check your sunroof is closed first before driving through the car wash.
Whoa, no. Wait, whoa.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So if you want to save money, check Allstate first at 888-ALLSTATE or allstate.com. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Gina Page, who is the co-founder and president of AfricanAncestry.com. All right, Dr. Page, I got about 4 minutes left here. Give me some sense of how, for those who've seen these commercials and know that this industry exists, how would you define how genetic ancestry tracing actually works?
Got you. I got a really simple example.
Okay.
So think of we use our DNA is the fundamental building block of our lives. DNA is found in every cell of our body. So think of yourself as a red velvet cake. You are a combination of eggs, sugar, chocolate, red dye, milk, flour, cream cheese, all of that, right? All of that is mixed together in your own unique recipe to make the Tavis Smiley red velvet chocolate cake, unlike nobody else.
Yes.
But you might want to know, where's my flour from? Where's my chocolate from? Let's pick the chocolate. Where's my chocolate from? So African Ancestry and other companies they dissect your recipe and then compare your ingredients to ingredients from all over the world to look for matches. And when they found the matching ingredient somewhere in the world, then they found the source, if you will. So if I want to know where your chocolate is from, then I'm going to compare you to as many red velvet cake sources of chocolate as possible so that I can find your matching chocolate. So that's kind of how it works. We all take DNA, compare it to a reference database, and look for matches. What makes us unique is that at African Ancestry, we have the largest reference database collection of African lineages. It's 8 times larger than these other companies, Tavis. 23andMe had 4,000 Africans. They're comparing Black folks to 4,000 Africans and giving them, you're some percentage, this region, that region, and the other. We take your DNA, your one ingredient, and we compare it to over 33,000 Africans, not from regions, but from 35 countries and ethnic groups. So we're able to make these very specific connections, like you share maternal ancestry, as I do, with the Fulani people living in Nigeria today. So it's really a matching exercise, and you want to make sure that you have as many matches or as many possibilities as you can to increase your probability of getting a good match.
I'm going to close this conversation right there. and this is why I love black people, because I did not see that coming. I asked her for an explanation. I asked Dr. Gina Page for an explanation of how genetic ancestry tracing works, and what I get is Tavis as red velvet cake. Only black people can give you an answer like that using red velvet cake as the centerpiece for the explanation. I love it. I love it. I love it. Friday is National DNA Day. I celebrate the work of Dr. Gina Page, and again, I do this every day, right? And I talk to all kinds of people, and I love when I find myself in spaces where black people have found ways to separate themselves from all the rest. They found ways to distinguish themselves from the also-rans, that they protect your DNA, that they destroy that DNA, that they will never sell that DNA. This ain't no commercial for AfricanAncestry.com per se, but I think it does matter when we have options and we have choices, that we choose that which is black-owned if we can, especially and particularly if they're head and shoulders above all the others in how they respect and honor and revere that DNA. I repeat, don't forget Henrietta Lacks. I'm going to leave it right there. Dr. Page, good to have you on. Thank you for your time and thank you for your work. Have an enjoyable rest of your day.
Thank you, Tavis. You do the same.
Thank you very much for that. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Tomorrow is Friday, so tomorrow is the best of Tavis, Smiley. So many choices this week to choose from to reprise some conversations you may have missed earlier this week. What a great week it was. Until tomorrow, though, thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Alexandria Ikamoni with 4 things you should know from BIN News. President Trump is cracking down on DEI in American education with 2 new executive orders. Trump took several executive actions regarding education, including 2 targeting efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the classroom, saying U.S. education is finally getting out of the business of DEI. 12 states are taking the Trump administration to court over tariffs. New York Attorney General Letitia James, a black woman, said Trump, quote, does not have the power to raise taxes on a whim, but that's exactly what President Trump has been doing with these tariffs, end quote. Jay-Z's anonymous rape accuser wants the rapper's defamation lawsuit against her dismissed. The woman originally claimed that Jay-Z and Diddy raped her when she was 13 before she dropped her lawsuit after several discrepancies were found in her story. Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts is now a married man. According to Men's Health magazine, Hurts tied a knot with his longtime girlfriend Brianna Burrows. Both are black. Get BIN News on demand at BINnews.com.
Why do we grill to order at Waba Grill? Because it's just better for you. Our Asian-inspired menu has high-quality proteins that are healthier for you. Download the Waba Rewards app or order online at wabagrill.com. Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The best first-round series in the NBA playoffs resumes tonight at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Clippers and Denver in Game 3. The series is tied at 1-1. Game 1 was decided by 3 points in overtime. Game 2 resulted in a 2-point win for the Clippers. 7 p.m. tip-off tonight. The 3-day NFL draft jumps off tonight in Green Bay. The Chargers have the number 22 pick in the first round. The Rams' first-round pick is at number 26. It could be a milestone night for HBCU college football. Alabama A&M offensive tackle Carson Vincent is a potential first-round pick. The 6'7", 314-pound native of Morrisville, North Carolina, impressed NFL scouts at the Senior Bowl and Scouting Combine. Vincent would be the first HBCU player chosen in the first round since 2008. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, a defensive back from Tennessee State, was selected at number 16 by the Arizona Cardinals. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years,